Dr. Nadia Navarrete-Tindall is a native of El Salvador. She is an associate professor in cooperative extension at Lincoln University in Jeff City, Missouri, and is in charge of the university's native plants program. Dr. Navarrete-Tindall came to the US to attend graduate school at Southern Illinois University, where she received a master's degree in forestry and a PhD in botany. She has decades of experience researching, tending, and sharing the beauty and usefulness of native plants in programs largely serving minoritized communities, and of course, all of the people and wildlife who benefit from these plants. She's also a very talented native plant foods cook, and we are so delighted to have you, Dr. Navarrete-Tindall, to share about edible native plants of the Ozarks today. You should be able to share your screen if you'd like to do that.
There we go. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
It's fun to be here. And since this is gonna be a really just a way to get people excited if you're not already excited about native edibles, I'll go fast with my presentation and I will leave time for questions. And I wanted to call my presentation like native edible plants in Missouri because they do in states surrounding us. These native plants that I will be sharing with you have a broad range of distribution. So we'll be talking a little bit about the plants and also about how to harvest and how to cook with them. I will start just saying just briefly what I do. In the past, I was in charge of the native plants program here at Lincoln University. And just recently, we started what we call a specialty crops program with emphasis on native plants. And what we do here is with this program is to promote native edibles and other specialty crops in sustainable agriculture. So this kind of meeting and presentations is just perfect. Native plants just fit with everything that we're talking about. And as a disclaimer, I always like to say something because when we're talking about native edibles, there might be some plants that you might be allergic to. So you have to be aware of them and about that. And also you need to know your plants before you eat them. I'm sure it's common sense, but sometimes happens that people confuse the plants. And just briefly, I will talk about gathering versus growing them and about the Finca Eco Farm that we have at Lincoln University. And all the plants that I'm gonna be talking about, we already have them here, fully mature for demonstrations. And this is a field day in front of the computer. So I thought that it would be nice to show you what we have and we can actually make it real. You can come to see us. We can organize tours to show you what we have. We'll talk about some herbaceous plants and some woody edibles. And at the end, I will mention some of the resources that I use. So just briefly, I'm sure the menu is common sense, but it's important to know where you are gathering. And if you're gathering, if you're not doing it illegally or in somebody's property, or you need to talk to them. And about public lands, there are places where you can gather foods, but not digging. So for example, one plant that I really encourage just to use the tops is the white leeks. And we have talked about that with Hannah. I know that she does it the same way. So we can leave the plants alone. We can eat them, but only the top parts. The Finca project here at Lincoln was funded by NIFA, or the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. We established this back in 2012, and right here at Lincoln University on the campus, we have what we call, and it's a small farm, really, what Finca means in Spanish. And so what we have is very, very small areas established, like urban farm-like, and where we have a lot of diversity and mostly established with perennial plants. And this is just to show you how diverse our finca is. This is just, it's less than an acre. We actually initiated with we have this teaching greenhouse that has been established. It was established back in the 1950s. So we started developing or establishing native plants, edibles mostly, around in the ground surrounding the teaching greenhouse. We're trying to use every single space. And of course, we are including pollinator gardens to increase fruit production. And this is just a nice design that developed by Sue Bartlett, our landscape designer and horticulturist that works with us here at Lincoln. Whenever you want to come, we'll talk more in detail about what this finca is about. So I'll just show you some of the plants that we have here. And just as a close-up, I'll just show you that some of the research that we're doing is, for example, we have planted native mints. On one side, we have bee balms, and on the other side, we have hairy mountain mint. So we're trying to use the mints as a deterrent to grow tomatoes and other vegetables. That's very small research, and I'm 100% extension, but I do like to do some small short research that maybe we can do later with the Center for Agroforestry in this new nice property that they have. With the native edibles we have, we do food tasting, we develop recipes, and I will be sharing some of them. Not the exact recipes, but I'll tell you what we do with them. Later on, I can share recipes if anybody is interested. With all the recipes that we develop with these native edibles, we have offered a program that we call Dining Wild. I mean, as you can see, it's just a full course meal. We had from 300 up to 300 people. At some point, it was just too much. So every single recipe, every single dish that you eat here and drinks are prepared with native edibles. At least one native plant is in the recipe. So let's talk about a short list that and I'm sharing the ones that we have tested. There are so many more, and there is a new book that is called Foraging the Ozarks, and I'll talk at the end about it. And so there's so much to discover. I learn every single day, but I'm just gonna focus on some that we consider that could be potential, have potential as a specialty crops. One of them is, well, this is really one of the best perennials that we have grown. I learned from Sue Bartlett, actually. He learned it from her elders. It's called Golden Glow Associate. And I know that Hannah and others at the center have it growing. And this is a perennial plant that is in the sunflower family. It is beautiful. In the fall, you can see these gorgeous, bright flowers that attract pollinators. But in the spring and in the fall, you can harvest the leaves. And they have their own special flavor. People ask me, what is the flavor? And I said, you have to try it because they all have their own special flavor. I just guarantee you, you might like it. And so we harvest the leaves and again in the spring. Now, right now might be a little too late, but with this cold weather and changing weather, you might still be able to harvest your plants. You can continue, you can keep harvesting and then generate new growths, and then you can keep eating for a couple or maybe even 3 harvests. They have to be blanched. They taste better that way. And then you can either preserve them frozen or use them immediately for recipes that call for spinach. We do work with communities at Extension. We work, here is a event that we had last year with a small church here in Jefferson City. We actually help them to establish the garden with native plants for pollinators, and we included some edibles, and we tested their own plants at the end of the season, and they all like it. They prepared really a wonderful recipe, like a quiche with golden glow or Soshan. One thing before I go on with Kaplan, that is a Soshan, it is plant that is being promoted by the East Band of the Cherokee, because it's being lost among the families, among the Cherokee families. It's being promoted now. And the next plant is cup plant, very common, very opportunistic plant, could grow in ditches, it could go in dry to moist areas. And the same thing, you harvest the leaves in the spring. This one has a little strong flavor, and I would just stay harvesting in the spring, early spring. Of course, attracts pollinators, and we have this beautiful monarch visiting our flowers in the fall. This is how the leaves look like. Same thing as Sosham. You just harvest the leaves and blanch them, and you can keep them, freeze them. And I have even dehydrated them just like that and use them for later, maybe for a mix of, like a mixed soup, a dry soup. We use them in other recipes, and this was served at one of the Dining Wild events. Canastitas or small baskets with cup plant and glade onion. See how gorgeous these little flowers look like. And I'll show you the glade onion in a minute. And I have to talk about stinging nettle. I hope some of you that are listening already have tried the nettles. These are really nutritious, they can be delicious. And if you harvest constantly, you can have a few, you can harvest up to 3 or 4 times, because later on, like early summer, they become a little, not woody, but very stringy. And you just need to eat the leaves. Of course, you have to use gloves to gather them, and you have to boil them, similar to golden glow and cup plant. So far, these 3 plants can grow in the shade. If you have a shady spot in your yard, or like what we see in the land of the Osage that the agroforestry has, they can grow. Probably they're already growing there. And this is one recipe that we have prepared. This is with nettles and white leeks. I just have to say something about them. This stinging nettle is actually not considered a native plant by many. Some consider it like a world plant because it grows everywhere. It is nutritious, it's tasty. Why not growing it as a crop? And this is just another way that we have tried different greens. Pupusas are actually a recipe from my own country, El Salvador. It is prepared, they're like corn tortillas, but prepared with masa, not with cornmeal. And they're very thick, as you can see, and you can fill them with anything you want. You make a very fine mix with your greens, and then you can include it in your pupusas. Something that can be tried sometime during a field day, a real field day. And then we have some onions, just a couple of them. This is one of my favorite onions, fall glade or prairie onion. The name says it's all, the common name. It grows, it actually blooms in the fall, and it can grow in glade or prairie or prairies. But these flowers that you can see were growing in a pot in my own yard. So I see the potential as a crop. We have done it at Lincoln University too, and it attracts these wonderful little pollinators, sweat bees. Balsam flowers, I mean, the whole plant is edible. but we suggest just to gather the flowers so you don't get rid of your plants. And we have I showed you the picture before with Kaplan. We have this recipe where we just prepare salads and then put these little flowers on top, and you can see how beautiful. And it adds just a subtle onion flavor. And wild leeks. I hope everybody in the group or whoever is listening know about this plant, but just have to emphasize again that we encourage just to gather the leaves. Otherwise, we'll be get rid of the plant unless you have a real well-established wild leek planting is fine. These ones, the pictures I'm showing were taken in the plants purposely established. This is in my own yard. We have them in a raised bed like vegetables. So I have a perennial bed with perennial vegetables. And we also use the violets, leaves, and flowers. Again, this is another woodland species. Recipes to prepare. You can use the bulbs. These bulbs, actually, we bought them. We didn't want to kill our plants, so you can order online. And so we have a chef, Sam Pfeiffer, preparing this really gorgeous focaccia bread and really tasty. One thing to point out, a pound of leeks could be from 10 to 17 pounds. So it could be profitable if you know how to do it. And this is just another way to use them, potato casserole with white leeks. And I mentioned flowers. We have violets that are edible, but are also important for the fritillary butterfly. There are certain species that depend on the leaves. So we are feeding us and feeding them too. We have a woodland spiderwort is another one that we've been using in salads. You can use the leaves and also the flowers. And here is how they, this is how they look in the spring, and you can prepare a salad. And we saw the beautiful red bass feed the honeybee feeding on a red bass. You can also use a red bass for yourself. And like this salad here with spiderwort, red bud, and violet, and as well as violet leaves. Now, we have a loss of native mints. We're not talking about spearmint that spreads like crazy. Mints is still spread, but they can be controlled in a garden or in farms. And the truth is, because these plants are so prolific, that they make them a good potential for specialty crops. So they also attract pollinators. We have these bumblebees, really happy here. We use them, the dry, fresh or dry leaves, we use them to prepare teas. Here are just 3 samples that we have during a dining wild event. Lead plant, similar to the way we prepare the mint. We prepare the lead plant, we gather the leaves, and also we have sumac teas that we use the berries or the small fruits. And with mountain mint, you can prepare this sumptuous. I mean, just as this name, as the picture shows, it's just amazing. It's really gives an amazing flavor when you do it with chocolate chip. So this is your cheesecake with mountain mint. And another mint I wanna mention is dittany. Dittany is like the native oregano, as the scientific name suggests. It grows in savannas or open woodlands. And it's really a nice plant for gardens. We put it in semi-formal gardens and they stay put. They're so small and so delicate that if they receive themselves, you welcome them. They're really pretty. And flavorful. That's what you do. You gather the leaves early in the spring or in the fall, or even the flowers. And we have used them. This is another recipe we prepared. It was chicken flavor with dittany. Our chef prepared a sauce with dittany, and he used just other native ingredients. Something that we're experimenting with, arrowhead or wapato, is, it's misspelled there. It is a wetland plant, and last year we started growing them in tubs. If you can envision here, these are like those tubs that are where salt is sold for livestock. So that size, and we planted 3 plants per pot or per tub, and we had a lot of production. We're still processing the numbers, but they were really productive. And we have them in 3 different locations, so that it varies depending on the shade. They seem to like a little shade, but not too much, at least in the tubs, because they get hot. And so that's something that could be done possibly in with the Center for Agroforestry, could be some research. And sunchoke is known by many, but it's people don't want to grow it because they always complain about spreading too much. So there are ways to do it. If you just want to grow them for your own consumption, you can put them in tubs. This is in our backyard in Colombia, and they're just wonderful in the fall for pollinators. And they have to be harvested in the fall or winter. And we do we pickle them. That's the best way to eat them and preserve them. But there are other ways to eat them too. And Dr. Andrea mentioned groundnut, and this is where we grew them also at Lincoln University in raised beds, because they can be really aggressive. We recommend to put a weed barrier at the bottom of your raised bed, because they will move out of the raised bed, and they were really prolific. They're nitrogen fixers, so there is a way to. I mean, you don't need to provide any fertilizers. Any of the plants that I'm talking about, and especially this one, is adapted to moist conditions and fixes nitrogen. We grew them also in pots, even though these are like maybe 2.5 feet diameter pots. They were very productive. But you have to wait until the second year to get larger nuts. There is a lot of research. It was a lot of research done with this plant, but I think more needs to be done, especially in our area. There is a potential to grow. And then we have the last 3 I'm gonna mention. I'm gonna go fast so we have time for questions. Is persimmon, and we all know persimmon. This is growing at Lincoln University. This is where my office is, and we have 2 persimmons growing. That it will welcome you if you come. And then this is a recipe that we use with persimmon cookies. And we have wild plums. This is in the back of the finca that I showed you at the beginning. They're really productive, and we have tried even leather with white plum fruit leather. It's very tasty. And I won't say much about pawpaw, because I'm sure you have heard from others here from the Center of Agroforestry. But I just have to show it and mention about the importance of pawpaws also, because they feed the zebra, swallowtail butterfly caterpillar. So we feed ourselves and we feed our pollinators. And just to finish, I just want to show you Papa in a natural setting in Colombia at the Audubon Sanctuary. And here's one on the right growing in front of my house, which actually I got it from Ken Hunt, if I remember his last name, that he gave it to me, and it's still growing. We have a couple more in the back. And here's some more. You see, I will have to go to finish with this, and just to show you that there are lots of resources, and it's nice to have diversity, so you can get information about many from different books. And you can contact me at this email, navarrete-tindall@lincoln.edu. And I have a Facebook page, Native Plants and More. And with that, I will end my show. I know it's a little, it's always, I mean, it's fast, just a few minutes, but it's always so much to talk about native edibles.
Thank you so much, Nadia. That was wonderful. If anyone has questions, we have time for just a couple. I had posted a little bit of a comment and a question here for you, Nadia. I just recently learned that wood nettles are native, correct? And stinging nettles are naturalized.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wood nettles have larger leaves. They're also prolific and delicious. Is there any reason why you would choose one over the other?
Stinging nettles are much more easier to grow as crops if you want to do it on purpose. But no, there is I simply didn't have. I usually show both together because I like to promote the natives more, but people are really familiar with stinging nettle. So there is no particular reason. I like both.
Great.
So that's.
I like both too.
Yeah, and we have them in our yard, and we have them also at Lincoln. And if you keep pruning, I'm sorry, there is sorry, when I'm in a call. I'm sorry. I'll call you back. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I see some other questions like sunchuck is great in kimchi. I agree. We have used also all the greens, the perennial greens that I mentioned, the golden glow, cup plant, and nettles are really, really great in kimchi. They make a very tasty and diverse kimchi. Any other questions?
There are a couple here asking which ID book you would recommend that also shows possible lookalikes so we don't accidentally misidentify. And then also how you find seeds or plant starts for some of these wild plants.
And well, the first question is, I don't know, but it's backwards. Foraging the Ozarks by Bo Brown. It's a really recent book. And I find it really, really good to identify both natives and lookalike. Some lookalikes that might be poisonous. One that comes to mind is hellebore with white leek. He has it there, so you can see how similar they look. It's just, but you can see the differences too. And there is also another book by Thomas Elias, that is called, and can I share again to show the books?
Yeah, by all means.
Yeah, so maybe people can take a picture of these books. I always like wild edibles of Missouri for people that are just starting. It's always really, and it's fun. There are all kinds of stories. Acorns and Cocktail it's a cookbook, but it's very sophisticated by the chef in St. Louis. And so we have like this is the one I was talking about, edible wild plants by Thomas Elias. That has a more broad information about natives. And of course, foraging the Ozarks is very, is regional, and the edible wild plants it covers more information. And while edible wild plants of the prairie is, I mean, again, I don't have favorites. I just like to use them all. So I have good information and I can share it.
Wonderful, thank you. And I can drop some links also in the chat to respond to the question. And Nadia, you're welcome to also for the question about finding seeds and plant starts for some of these. It is 11 o'clock, so we should move on to our next session. But thank you again so much, Dr. Nadia Navarrete-Tindall.
Thank you. They know where to find me.
Yes.